Hello, hello, hello! It's Dr. Christy coming at you with a webinar called Nature's Medicine Cabinet. And we have launched, I'm sure you've seen, the Operation Stay Healthy. And we've done it for a couple different reasons. Number one, because that's what we're all about, is living a healthy lifestyle. That we know it encompasses a lot of things and a lot of what you need to do to take care of your body. Many in which people already know and understand, but it's often the implementation and changing their lifestyle instead of making it something very temporary for a temporary situation to totally change your lifestyle. And I want to send the encouragement to you that this is a journey. Health is a real journey. It's going to take some time. There's some people that just wish they could dump their old crap and then start something totally new. And while you can do that, to make something even more sustainable and make a long-term change, it's going to have to happen in increments. So we want to help you guys live a healthier lifestyle. It's one of the best things that you can do for yourself, and especially during this time. So our second reason was we've been quarantined. We have a decision to make, right? Where there's an event that has happened, and our reaction to that event is what really is going to determine the outcome, how our bodies and our families can handle it. So we want to help you with some very easy, practical, at-home tips to be able to make some nice lifestyle changes. And then we're also having a competition with the Operation Stay Healthy and featuring local businesses that are health related. So be watching, stay tuned. You can participate in the competition and win the gift cards for some of those places. So our first week, we are hitting up Bowl of Heaven in Eagle, which we absolutely love. They've got some really great antioxidants there. So there's a $25 gift card that's going to be given away tomorrow for the winner of Operation Stay Healthy for this week. And next week is Rembrandt. So keep staying tuned for our next gift cards, our next local businesses. And for some of you, it was interesting that not a lot of people knew about the Bowl of Heaven. So it's right in Eagle, and we absolutely love that place. So let's just take a moment to go back to an overhead view of health before we get really microscopic on Nature's Medicine Cabinet and really the food that you put inside of your mouth. So the foundations and the fundamentals of health in the sound mind, body, and spirit, what we're trying to create is a clear mind and body. And whether you are new to this idea or you understand this idea or you're deep into this idea, we already know that our brain and body have to be in constant communication. It's back and forth and it's running all the time. The more clear and concise that it is, the better that system's gonna operate. The more stress that we add to our lives, unfortunately, there's more crap for our body to weed to. It slows things down and it starts something that we take a look at called dis-ease in our lives. Not disease, but it can lead to that if we eventually don't remove the stress and make a big change in our lifestyle. So when we are looking at the stressors in our life, there's three. There's physical, chemical, and emotional. Those are pretty broad topics. We've covered several of them in previous episodes. So I want you to get on there and look at some more of those foundational health videos that we've done. But creating a clear mind and body is going to be taking a look at those physical, chemical, and emotional stressors in our lives and help clean them up and remove them. So as chiropractors, we are saying, all right, clear mind and body, our job is to remove the stress. So every single one of those cells, organs, and tissues can be clearly and concisely communicated with. Your job is to feed those cells, organs, and tissues well, so that beautiful marriage can occur. Now, my family has been on a long journey of changing the way that we eat and adding other things into our diet, including supplementation, including really clean water. If you guys want to know about clean water and the best kind of water to drink, hit me up later and I can talk to you about that, or even add it into the comments and I'll give you a reply on making sure you have a clear reverse osmosis, but that it's adding back in the ions and alkalinization. Wow, that's a word for me today. Back into it. So it's actually live living water and it's not completely stripped of nutrients. So hit me up for that later. We also have covered adequate sleep, which is foundational, movement and exercise. Go back to some of the earlier videos. And I know Dr. P has been on there showing you guys some really good movement and movement breaks that you can take, because we all know movement feeds the brain. And we covered adequate, what did we cover? Adequate sleep, drinking water, healthy eating, exercise, movement, and healthy mind and body, and helping control some of those outcomes, because we can't always control the event. We can control our reaction, and that's going to create part of the equation in what your outcome is going to be. So as I was saying, our family's been on a very long journey to get where we're at in how we eat. And some of it did require a little bit of testing in seeing what are some of the foods that we're reacting to. Because one of the biggest things that will happen is your body can't recognize what a food is. And often those are chemical related foods. Those are foods that have been highly processed, that our body doesn't understand what it is, and that'll activate our immune system and start causing some inflammation. So we'll often see in people, they're highly, highly inflamed in their bodies. You know, one of our neurological tests are looking at the way organs and glands are getting their nutrients, their blood supply, and part of that can be interference from inflammation. So that's one of the things that we're going to look at. And there's some people that their bodies and tissues have been so broke down that those organs and glands need very specific nutrient dense supplementation. And those are things we'll either refer out for functional medicine or recommend a protocol of food-based supplementation that's going to support whatever organ or gland it is to help build that back up. And some of us really need it. So if you feel like you're someone that's like, I am so far outside, I eat a healthy diet, I do everything that I know how to do, I'm still having inflammation and tissue that's not healthy, you might be someone that needs that kind of testing. So move over here if that's you, but and also listen in if you're someone that just needs to know, like, what do I need to do to be able to feed my mind and body? And right now, body is one of the biggest ones. Feeding the cells what they need is absolutely vital, especially during a time of stress. Right now, we can't necessarily control all of the emotional stress that's around us, because as we're here in quarantine and as you're on your social media or news outlets, you know that it's just been loaded with content, villainized content, honestly. And that might be an opinion by me, but whatever side of the fence you're standing on, saying, stay home or let's get back outside, we're unfortunately villainizing the other side. And there's not a lot of peace and harmony in the middle there. So many of us are picking up on that negative emotional energy. And whether you think you are or you know you are, your nervous system, as you remembers everything. It fuels everything. So during this time of emotional stress, the other things that you can control are physical and chemical stressors that are in your life. So getting your exercise in, of course, is ideal, and feeding yourself well is ideal. So here's some of the tips that I'm going to give you on eating. I should probably just walk you guys down to my kitchen and open up my refrigerator and my pantry. Maybe I'll do that another time and show you how we eat, because sometimes that's just helpful for people. Some people are super visual learners and like, just show me what you buy and what feeds your family. And I can tell you that it's mostly organic. And if you're someone that is like, I can't do everything organic, then looking at the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, those two lists are highly important to take a look at. Organic food is something that is really important to us, because I know that we are very reactive to pesticides and chemicals in the way that a plant is grown. And our kitchen is also full of non-GMO food. But our foundation, and if you can imagine the food pyramid that was written long ago, that isn't necessarily one that we follow by any means, because they put carbs and bread on the bottom. And somebody that eats a lot of carbs and bread is probably someone that's stuck in that fight or flight response, and their brain needs quick sugar. This is something very simple to break down. It breaks it down quickly into a quick food and glucose for your brain. And that is not something that we necessarily agree with. So our foundation is fruits and vegetables first. So here's something to look at. I'm talking about mostly raw. Some people like to lightly cook, saute, or even dry out and freeze dry fruits and vegetables. While that is fine and it can be used on occasion, you are pulling out some of the nutrients and some of the water. And a lot of times what our bodies are missing are the fibers that it needs. So your body, if you take a look at, let's say, a grape, just a plain old grape, and a raisin, they are the same caloric intake if you eat each of them. But if you were to look at the size of a grape and the size of a raisin, one is just sugar and the other one's full of water. You might be getting the same nutrients depending on how they dried this grape. If it was a fast, hot, dry, it loses definitely a lot of its nutrient value. But this grape right here is going to fill you up, and it's going to fill your stomach up. It's going to give you all of the water intake that you need to be able to digest it. Not all of it, obviously you have to drink water. But that's going to fill your stomach more than a raisin. And it's going to have the same sugar as this. So you'd have to eat a lot more raisins than you would a handful of grapes to be able to get the same satiety, the same satiated, I'm feeling full and satisfied effect. So take that into consideration, that your body really fundamentally needs raw fruits and vegetables. Now, if you're a parent that's watching this, they're like, dude, my kid I can't get him to chew a fruit or a vegetable. Absolutely not going to happen. And if you can't get them to have smoothies, that's kind of the next step that I would take a look at. Okay, we aren't able to get them to eat a raw fruit or vegetable, and we could lightly saute and add some flavor to those. Sometimes that works. But if you literally cannot get them to consume a fruit or vegetable and those high dense nutrients, our body needs those phytonutrients to be able to feed those cells, then take a look at possibly getting a smoothie. If you have the capability to get a really fine blender, so like a Blend Tech, or I'm trying to think of the one that we have downstairs, we bought at Costco, they always have little sales on them. Not a Ninja, but whatever other one that is, that's what we have in our home, of Vitamix. Those actually will break down the fruits and vegetables to a very palatable texture that some sensory kids will be able to swallow. Where they can't swallow a raw fruit or vegetable or handle that crunch, then moving to a smoothie and sneaking in nutrients is the next place to go. However, you also have to remember that chewing is actually what activates your brain and your body and your saliva and starts the digestive tract and starts that digestive cascade. That often, if you miss that chewing component of it, it can trick your brain a little bit into thinking that you're still hungry. And I'm even talking to some of those people who are like, I've tried the smoothie diet and the protein shake replacement, and my body was still hungry, that didn't get the protein that it needed, or it didn't get that feeling of being full. That's usually why. So there's not some chewing. I also don't recommend gum, because some people add that as a supplement to feeling the chew satisfaction. And fake sugars are one of the things that you want to remove from your diet, because when your brain and your body feels and tastes sugar or something sweet, it expects calories, and it's going to instantly increase the insulin inside of your body, and it's going to want the actual sugar. So it's going to lower the blood sugar. Your body's going to think it needs sugar, it needs calories, and it's going to make you even hungrier. That's why people that claim, drinking diet sodas will actually make you gain weight. That's why, because your brain actually wants some calories to go with that sweet effect. And that can be the same thing with gum, especially gums have, all sorts of junk in them. We replace it with little peppermint beadlets or essential oils for peppermint when you feel like, because some people like to keep their breath fresh. Shocking, right? Using a little bit of peppermint oil is really great, but also taking a look at the gut flora. If you are someone that suffers with bad breath, of course, teeth, but look at the gut flora. That can be a number one sign that your gut flora is off when you have constant bad breath or you're not getting enough water, is one of the other things. So take a look at those things, and we are going to talk about probiotics and gut flora in another video, and how we take a look at how that having a really healthy gut absolutely helps break things down. It's going to lower your immune response, things like that. Because you also know that 70% of your immune system is in your gut. So the next layer that we have in our pyramid that's down here of raw fruits and vegetables, lightly sauteed. You can do some cooked. If you're a cooked person, that's great. We like to roast broccoli and cauliflowers and things like that, in beans, Brussels sprouts. I'm not the biggest fan of Brussels sprouts, but my family tends to like those. But just some really easy vegetable oil. The avocado is our number one go-to, but some people like olive oil, or I would stay away from canola. That's an inflammatory one and typically made from a GMO, with salt and pepper and some fresh garlic. If you don't have a fresh garlic that you can dice up and throw on some powdered garlic, and away you go. That is one of the fundamentals in our household. So we're gonna make sure every meal that's our basis. And when we go up even a little bit further on our pyramid, we're gonna take a look at some really healthy protein. And healthy protein for some people looks really different than healthy protein for other people. What we will eat first is fish. Fish that has been wild caught, and fish that has a high, not only high protein, low saturated fat, high omega-3s. And here's why that's important. High levels of omega-3, that is the fat that surrounds your nerve cells and your brain. That's what helps efficiently and effectively run your nervous system. So enough omega-3 fatty oil is absolutely foundational for health. So salmon's really high in that, but you want to watch your source. Don't get a farm-raised salmon. Those are kind of sick fish. You're going to want to get a wild caught salmon, and just reading the labels is going to be something that you're going to have to get used to going into the grocery store, especially if you're someone that just is going to grab whatever fish is on sale, making sure you get the one that says it's wild caught. A lot of the fish farms, and this is just a side tangent, are in dirty water with caged chickens on top being fed soybeans that are GMO, and those fish get those droppings. So it's not a really good health choice. And when animals are inflamed, we actually get their inflammation and their hormones. That's why they started banning hormones. They started banning hormones in our cattle and the milk that we were drinking, because they figured out it was being passed on to humans. So it is really, really important. Don't eat a sick animal. Don't eat a stressed animal. Don't eat one that's not in their element. That's why caged, eggs and things like that are being cage-free. Eggs are being really looked at now on the health of the egg coming from that chicken. Same thing with the chicken and the chicken meat. Same thing with the cows. We know that cows that are all kept in captivity, don't have room to roam, are eating corn that's not good for their digestive tract. They're inflamed, and they have a high level of omega-9s and 6s compared to omega-3s. So eating a grass-fed meat is really important to get more omega-3s than the inflammatory 9s and 6s. Nuts, you can get a nice amount of protein from nuts if you're a nut eater. Some people do have nut allergies and they absolutely can't get those. So, but making sure you're eating those in rations rather than in small portions, rather than really large portions. And a lot of people put protein for their foundation, and I get it. Keto is like such a thing right now. There's all sorts of diets that you can follow. And if you're somebody that likes to do that and diet hop, that's totally fine. But what we are all about is making sure you're making lifestyle choices, so that it is everyday choice that you can make. Every day, whether you go to a party, whether you're going out to eat, whether you are cooking at home, you can look at the options that are there and say, this is what I'm going to fill my plate with. This is what I'm going to eat. I can still participate in the other things, but I'm going to choose the foundation of mostly fresh fruits and vegetables, and then some of those proteins. And then it's not that you can't have processed foods and crackers and dairy and other fats and oils, but making sure that you're eating those in smaller proportions as well. Because if it becomes a stressor to your body, overeating is really a stress to your body. You start bogging down your digestive tract. Your immune system isn't getting what it needs to be able to replenish itself either. The gut lining, it's just under constant work. And if you just even think about yourself, if you're constantly working, you aren't able to heal and repair, which is why we also will suggest around bedtime, about an hour before bedtime, or when you feel like your stomach is empty, is when you could take some of your supplementations like probiotics and omega-3s, magnesium, some of those things that we talk about in the office that are essential to our lives because our soil is so depleted of magnesium. Not magnesium citrate, and I know there's different forms of magnesium, but the ones that cross over the blood-brain barrier, and I can also put those in the comments in what to look for there to make sure that those calcium magnesium channels are open for you and your body and your brain to be able to operate the smoothest and most effective that it can. And same thing with adding the probiotics an hour before bedtime when your stomach isn't digesting a real big meal. It can replenish itself as well, and all of those things can help adding up to a healthier digestive tract. So if you are able to eat smaller amounts of fresh produce, eat that first, smaller amounts of protein, and seriously chew your food. It's going to help your digestive tract as well. And then wait 20 minutes before you decide that you want to go in for seconds, or that you want to have dessert perhaps and add some sugar on top of that. We are an 80-20 rule is typically what we say in our family. If you are eating well 80% of the time, that 20% isn't necessarily going to take into effect of now your system's being bombarded. It's not that we don't treat ourselves in our family, but we're going to pay attention to how much sugar we add, and we can definitely see it in our kids if they have too much sugar. And I can see it myself with inflammation in my joints and being a little bit more sluggish and my brain slowing down a little bit. So you've got to take into consideration everything that goes through your body. It can be a stressor, and that's going to slow things down, and it is going to start that dis-ease cycle because your brain doesn't have time to heal, doesn't have time to relax. Your brain and body has to be in constant communication, and if it's always working, it doesn't have time to rest, heal, and repair, which is really, really vital to having a healthy body and a healthy mind. So our top layer is where you're looking at some of those fats and sugars and things that are very related to sometimes processed, but sometimes the most natural sugars that you can get is what we suggest. But dairy, that I know that people and long out there that dairy is the fundamental for getting enough calcium inside of our body, which is false. It does cause inflammation, and if you're not getting it from a really good source, it also can you can pick up on their hormones in that sick animal. So grass-fed butters are fantastic. And once again, if I'm talking to a keto person, they just throw butter on top of everything. But limiting those are going to be really essential for your family. And the cheeses and the scoops of what are the sour cream, stuff like that. And I am going to say this, it's a little bit easier for your body to digest smaller animal proteins. So a goat or a sheep compared to a cow, because their proteins are designed to grow a very large animal very, very fast compared to what a goat or a sheep's bodies are designed to do. And those proteins are higher dense in ones that are similar to a human albumin protein. So those are going to be a lot easier to digest and not cause so much of a ruckus inside of your body. So often what we'll see when people do have a breakdown in their gut and they are reacting to dairy or they're reacting to corn and soy and things like that, it's because our body couldn't recognize the source that it came from. So I hope that's helpful. If there's any questions, put in the comments. I can add in there our magnesium source. We actually do take a supplementation to get enough omega-3s, and we take a fish oil, and other people take a plant-based one, and I'm happy with either one of those for a choice for you to make. And the water that we have, I'll throw all of those in the comments to make sure you guys get your questions answered that I threw up in here. And then if you have any, please ask. And then take a look at your pantry. Take a look at you know what I didn't mention, which I missed, is the pastas. Those are also very, very small for us as well. The pastas, rice, grains, things like that. Those are definitely a lesser product that we eat, and very little of it do we eat. We're a gluten-free family, but that's something that where it was the foundation for a lot of other people. It's back up to the top of our pyramid where it's a very small portion of those. Not a lot of bread goes through our house, or buns and things like that. It's not on our dinner table. So sometimes I even forget to mention that. It's not something that I feel like we need in our diet. But if you are, once again, are living with a sensory kid that lives on crackers and cheese and macaroni, this is going to be harder to remove from their lives. And definitely doing a course or researching the sensory project is a great place to go. But researching some of those other places that help you work out of the addictions to the sugars is really helpful. I hope you guys have a good evening, and let me know if you have any questions, and maybe we'll take an adventure to my kitchen someday.